This is going to be your guide to using Sandy Shocks in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, and this might actually be like the fastest Generation 9 moveset guide because the Pokemon doesn't really do much. This is it. This is the best I could come up with because, like with a lot of Paradox Pokemon, the moveset is weird because the stats are kind of overtuned, but sometimes they're not really, and then the Pokemon kind of falls apart. Other Paradox Pokemon don't have 80 in a wasted stat that isn't utilized. Sandy Shocks does, but we get a 101 speed, 121 special attack Pokemon in return that has weird stuff going on because of the interaction with photosynthesis, and it kind of plays like Beast Boost in this scenario to where if you want to get a certain stat pumped, then you need to kind of give up in another stat. So Timid Nature, 101 speed, you can't just go full into the special attack if you want the booster energy to boost that speed. So then you go to a very specific number, put the rest into bulk, and now this is kind of where the Pokemon ends up, regardless of the stats, and it's pretty good. You have a 101 speed Pokemon that has 50% more speed, so you're outspeeding, 100 base that are Scarfed or have a +1, and then hopefully you're hurting them. So you turn into some kind of sweeping Pokemon with a high amount of speed that has the freedom to change its moves. What do we get in return? Again, kind of weird stuff. So Electric Ground with Earth Power Thunderbolt. That sounds like a really crazy dual typing to have stab on, but you're resisted by grass type Pokemon. So that kind of makes sense. And if you add in some other stuff, we have Rock, gives us 685 super effective hits for a Toedscruel resist, and then the other things just aren't in the game yet. And then we can also look into something like the Flash Cannon against Fairy-type Pokemon. Less super effectives, no resists, but I don't really think it matters too much. And that's kind of like the only other option this thing has for its movesets, where you go Power Gem, which I think works. Glimmora taught us Power Gem can be pretty strong. Or we have the Flash Cannon, because yeah, hitting Fairy-type Pokemon for super effective hits, also really good. So it might come down to meta or preference. But you just run that. Then Thunderbolt, Earth Power. On top of that, I was thinking Charge Beam, because 121 special attack. An effective Scarf 121 special attack isn't great. You're going to be 2-hit KOing a good amount of things, but not even 2-hit KOing everything. So you need to get the +1 into it. But even with the +1, you're not a 130 plus special attack that finds crazy 1-hit KOs either. So we have to go to the damage calculator to see where it ends up. So 208 on the special attack means, wow, into a bulky Pokemon, you're not really doing too much. So the Charge Beam does matter, but the hope is you Charge Beam, get the boost, and then convert the 1-hit KO with your natural bulk. But here against a Pokemon that's 95s across the board, doesn't really happen. So after that, we're relying on coverage. And yeah, you can then go like Terra Electric. That's going to convert. And then a Terra Electric +1, 121 special attack Pokemon starts to get a bit more threatening, but even then, we're not getting 1-hit KOs on something as bulky as a Silvally. Fortunately, most Pokemon aren't there. I was like, oh yeah, what about the Gengar? Well, we outspeed the Gengar, and it has a 75-60, so we don't even need to Terra to get KOs against it. Actually, the Fluttermane matchup is a pretty good one to check out, just to see if Sandy Shocks can do anything. And I'm going to be making this one favorable for the Sandy Shocks. Let's say it did Charge Beam, Thunderbolt thing, got the KO, it's +1, and then Fluttermane comes in. Fluttermane does 60 to 70% to it, so depending on how big of a hit Sandy Shocks took setting up the Charge Beam, yeah, Fluttermane just outspeeds, gets KO, because Fluttermane most likely coming in with its own booster energy, getting a speed boost, something like that. Decent damage at +1, but not a lot at +0, +1 with Terra Electric. Not going to be enough, so then that's where we can like look at the Flash Cannon. But even then, the +1 Flash Cannon non-stab from the Sandy Shocks, not enough to threaten the Fluttermane. So what it shows is this Pokemon lives and dies by super effective hits, and it's kind of just a weird coverage sweeper, because you don't think, oh man, coverage sweeping Pokemon's gonna have Ground, Electric, and Steel, or the Power Gem Rock. It kind of works, and it just works into things that are in the meta, but even like when set up and at the +1 stuff, it's not enough to KO some of the other sweeping threats. So it kind of puts Sandy Shocks in a weird position, but it has that power. It has that ability, like, okay, Charge Beam Thunderbolt, that KOs a good amount of Pokemon, And then in 3v3s, if you can like play around the opponent or have a good read on what their team composition is, and you bring Sandy Shocks in, and you just need Earth Power on a sweeping Pokemon to clean up, then you're kind of good. So that's an angle, and Earth Power, we can kind of see where Earth Power ends up with like on fast Pokemon. So Doug Trio doesn't really count. And yeah, fast Pokemon don't, like fast special attackers mostly don't really get it. So it's going to be the Paradox Hydreigon, and then we have Sandy Shocks, which is going to be leaning into that speed, getting that stab, and that's why you kind of want to look these things up to find a Pokemon's niche. That, yeah, a lot of things are weak to the Earth Power, this thing becomes untouchable. If it gets the +1, it can threaten other, like, frail sweeping Pokemon, and then it just has good utility, and it has things to break down the opponent with, also cleanup potential. So I see this Pokemon being better in 6v6, which is kind of a weird thought, because in 6v6, you want to get the most out of your entire team, and you also want to find, like, crazy cleanup Pokemon and stuff like that, but this guy can just kind of enter, be good against a lot of, like, common-ish Pokemon, be fairly hard to stop, and have, like, just options to deal with, and then can find the cleanup. Are there better cleanup Pokemon? Yeah, but, like I said, we were able to find something unique about where this Pokemon exists, and that kind of makes a case for it. As for some of the other moves, I don't know what to do here, man, because like I said, this is just a Terra Pokemon that gets weird stuff that doesn't make any sense. Body Press. Well, I mean, like, just because a Pokemon has Iron Defense, Body Press doesn't mean you have to run it. There's just way better ones. It's like max hit points, max defense, but no built-in sustain. Doesn't really seem worth it. Magnetic Flux. I think Game Freak forgot about this move so much, it wasn't even one of the ones cut in the last generation, even though it absolutely deserves to be, or it needs to get more support to make any sense. But yeah, Magnetic Flux not doing anything, Iron Defense. And what about the Charge? Like, if we had Charge, we could maybe do something where it's like, oh, Iron Defense, Charge, Body Press, Chesto, Resto. Could be cheesy. Or if it has Parabolic Charge, and then, like, becomes an interesting, unique Paradox Pokemon because of that. No, it doesn't get any of the tools. And then, at the end of the day, it's a 101, 121 Pokemon, which isn't even crazy. Like, you really just scroll down the sweeping list, and you can see that kind of stuff is a dime a dozen, especially if, like, Legendary Pokemon and other Paradox Pokemon start coming in. But, like I said, it has a small little niche. It can do some things, has some power, gets kind of interesting, might catch some people off guard. And we learned this with the Glimmora. But the thing about the Glimmora is I think Glimmora is just better, because the in-between of, like, 101 speed, if we're, like, not boosting or trying to make this a wall-breaking Pokemon, between Glimmora's speed doesn't have any major threats inside of it that are going for, like, speed investment. So the 101 doesn't really do much over the 80-something speed. And then, as a sweeping Pokemon, this thing's outclassed by a lot of other sweepers. So, like, yeah, it's coverage. So it can be alright. It's got enough base durability to set up, and then it hurts things. Would have been more interesting to see as like a Generation 6 Pokemon stat profile, but here we are, and playable, which is kind of an accomplishment for a lot of Generation 9. So, hope you guys enjoy the video. Hope you have a nice day. Thank you very much for watching.